Hello and welcome to Niagara University. My name is Tom Burns. It's my pleasure to serve as our host today for the State of the University. I have with us the Reverend James J. Maher, CM, the 26th President of Niagara. We've done this the last few years, and Father will give us a rundown of some of the great happenings on campus. Father, great to have you with us, and great to have our viewers with us, and some of our closest friends of the university are with us.
Yeah, we're very grateful, Tom, and the Lynch Society and the Heritage Society are great supporters of the university, as are alumni, and we're just fortunate to be able to be together and talk about the state of the university.
That's great. So we'll run through a few things, talk about enrollment and some of the other great happenings at the university, academic affairs, and those types of things. We have a few questions to get to at the end, but let's just jump right in. Father, we talked last year, we did this almost in lieu of the President's Dinner because of the COVID crisis, but the university operated through COVID, and now back to this fall, students returned to campus, and talk a little bit about the feeling of having students back on campus.
Well, it's just it's an energy, right? That you know, when alumni come back to the campus and they see the students and they see them walking around and skateboarding around, and you know, it's just wonderful to have them back. We've been fortunate to have a really strong freshman and transfer class and a really good showing for residence life, as well as graduate students as well. So it's just wonderful to have them back, and so many of the students have just said, you know, they're so glad and grateful to be back on campus with their classmates and be connected in person.
And the university has some protocols still in place, required vaccines. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, Dr. Colley, our Executive Vice President, Dr. Iron, our Provost, have really led our Restore Task Force through all of the pandemic, and great credit to the administrators and the faculty and staff on the task force. And so we're really pleased that we have 100% compliance of full-time faculty, and we're in 95 to 100% of compliance with every other group on campus, including students.
Yeah, that's incredible numbers. And so your path all along has been follow the science, follow the guidance. And so I imagine that's still the same going forward?
We will, Tom. Yeah, we'll be, you know, doing the best we can to really follow the science and protect the public. And those are kind of our two markers. And to be flexible and adaptable, and do what we can to really create a health and safe environment for all on the campus.
Well, that's great. It is great to see people on campus, like you said, and have events and activities going on. Let's talk about enrollment. I know it's complex to break it all down, so we'll break it down piece by piece. And start with, you know, I know it's one of the questions you get all the time, Father, how's enrollment? Father, how's enrollment? So let's start with undergraduate and what the fall looks like right now.
Well, great credit to our new Vice President for Undergraduate Enrollment and Marketing, Mike Friedman, and his team. So we have a fall freshman class of 624, and that's really right on target where we're aiming. 145 transfers, so that's up over 20 from last year at this particular time. The class is, you know, has good balance in terms of where they come from. You know, we're very proud of our Western and Central New York roots, and we're deeply committed to that. We're also trying to break into new markets, and we've been able to do that and balance some of the demographic trends as we go forward, including Canada.
And academic quality in those numbers?
Really strong class, and we're really pleased with that. You know, a very, very strong. We break them down into categories of sort of 1 to 5, and the 4 and 5 are the strongest, most academically attuned, although they're all good students, right? At various stages of development. And so we have a really high number of 4 and 5 category students this semester. And, you know, it just adds to the strength of the campus environment.
And one of the pieces I know, and you mentioned drawing from outside of Western New York and you know, broadening the reach, but the university's Vincentian mission, and a lot of times you can define that in the financial aid and what is considered Pell eligible. Talk about how well the university does in recruiting Pell eligible.
Well, we have a sponsorship commitment from the Vincentian community of a floor of 25%. We've been able to exceed that floor, 35% approximately Pell eligible percentage of our students freshman class this year. And that's significant because you know, we've been able to make gains in graduation and retaining students. So, and it's a college education, a university education makes a tremendous difference in a young person's life, and particularly for a Pell eligible student. It gets them into a web of relationships and opportunities that they wouldn't have without Niagara University.
Well, that's great. And we're not talking about graduation of Pell eligible. Don't get ahead of me. I have a question about that later. We'll get to, of course. Now let's talk a little bit about graduate enrollment. I know you count that differently. It's not a head count, right? So how's that?
It's done by credit hours, but we're we're over 900 students, it's been a really nice. Tim Ireland, our provost, has done a great job leading that forward. We've made some significant gains. So right now we're about just over 100%, 103% of goal for the year in terms of our credit hours for the number of credit hours that we target at the beginning of the year.
That's great. That's incredible to have both those on the undergraduate and the graduate side. And then the university has the location in Vaughan, which we talked about. I think on this we almost introduced it a couple of years ago. The location, the Vaughan location. How's enrollment up there?
It's been really strong. Ontario is coming back strong now. In dealing with COVID, and I believe their vaccination rates have risen in the province. 18 or older, over 90% for first shots. We had a goal of 400. We're sitting right now at 441 students on the Vaughan site for our campus in Vaughan. So it's a key part of our strategy as we go forward, and we've been able to really make some significant gains. And the overall goal, Tom, is really Niagara has a unique opportunity of any Western Central New York college and university. No one else is in the province of Ontario. And so we're really looking to build out our footprint as we go forward.
That's incredible. And then there's a program, additional qualifications that we do up there, like a professional development for teachers. Tell me, those numbers are as strong?
Yeah, so those numbers are continuing credit for people working in the field of education and teaching, and that has continued to be strong. We've been bolstered by the ministry granting us the opportunity to move the cap on our post-baccalaureate teacher education program, so that cap moved from 139 to 180. We've also been granted permission to enroll and admit international students studying in Canada into our 5 post-baccalaureate and graduate programs there. And those are really significant developments for Niagara as we go forward, as well as bolstering our relationship with the business community and, leveraging the over 3,400 alums that Niagara has in the province of Ontario.
So let's jump back down to the Lewiston campus, and people ask about, you have a good freshman class, but what does housing look like? And talk a little bit about where we are with housing on the Lewiston campus.
So we've been very fortunate, great work by Chris Sheffield, our Vice President of Student Affairs, and his team, all of the team working together. So we're sitting at 1,138 students residing on the campus. We had targeted a goal of 1,060, just not knowing where we were with the pandemic and how things were. But a lot of excitement and energy, a lot of upper class students returning to campus, and I think our commitment to public health and safety and vaccines spoke loudly to families and students, and so they want to be at a place where they're safe. And so we're really pleased about that. 74% of our freshman class are residing on the campus. We aim for 72% or higher. Excuse me, as we put the housing together. But it just contributes to the life of the campus to have them. They're excited about the dining commons being back. In a year, we'll have Kiernan up and running and ready, and that will be an incredible force for transformation and change for the campus community itself and student engagement. So you can feel the anticipation, the excitement building, and it's just great to have the students around and see them walking around the campus.
Yeah, and they're getting the traditional campus experience, being on campus and that. And then the last piece of the puzzle on enrollment is retention. And you get the students, but do you keep them? And talk a little bit about the university's retention and where we sit now.
Yeah, so we sit right now at 79% freshman retention, which is 3 to 4 points lower than we have been traditionally, 4 to 5 actually. And so the National Clearinghouse, really notes that the dip nationally has been anywhere between 3 to 5%, and we find ourselves in that range. There was great work done by the team in terms of even getting to 79% and the monumental challenges that students and families faced as we go forward. There's about 20 students that took leaves of absence from last year to this year. We're in active contact with them and really working to bring them back into the fold as we go forward. So we've got a really good team that's done great work over the last 4 or 5 years on retention and graduation rates. And so they're on it, and you know, we anticipate with the strength of this class that we'll be able to bounce back pretty significantly next year.
And the leaves of absence, I mean, if a student was just going to leave and go away, then they would go away, but that intention must be to come back, right?
Yeah.
You asked for that for that reason.
That's right, and that's, we've had that every year with just the challenges that students and young people face in their lives. So it's not always a straight path, right, for the students in going forward. But there's a lot of support for them, and you know, we'll actively work with them, with our team, to get them back into the fold.
Well, that's great. And then, so the universities, let's jump into some of the academics and the things that people ask you about when you travel around, and you're starting to travel, which is good, because I know it's been a while. But they ask about how we do in the how do we do here, how do we do in the rankings. And so the U.S. News rankings just came out last month. We'll break that down a little bit. But first, in the regional universities, Niagara's in the north, and talk a little bit just about the overall ranking and how the university did there.
Well, we moved up a couple spots, and that's significant because you know, we're bottlenecked with a lot of other universities and colleges in that way. So we're now 21st, which is great for the university and positions us you know, really nicely as we move forward.
Now, in 2013, the university was 70th, so that's a jump of almost 49 spots, right? That's an incredible. And your first year was what year?
2013.
So we've jumped up 49 spots. And I know you're too Vincentian, too humble to say that, but an incredible work by your team. And
well, you know, Tom, it really has been a great job by the whole team, and they deserve the credit, really, honestly, for it. What's most significant about this, and I think it's important for our alumni to know this, that what I'm most pleased about is that the movement is not about simply chasing rankings. It's about our strategic plan, you know, having our 6 pillars, really focusing on them, measuring ourselves against them. When we don't meet the mark, being able to recalibrate and go forward. And so it's really, you know, goes to sort of the full health of the institution. And that's really, for me, what's most pleasing, because the rankings reflect the internal work that's been done and the positioning of the university as we're going forward as really a wonderful, you know, warm, engaging place that's very Vincentian of St. Vincent de Paul, that we hold ourselves accountable for excellence and for outcomes. And you have to really have both in higher ed these days.
So, Father, inside the rankings, there are a couple other pieces, and one is best value, and that speaks what you just talked about, the Vincentian piece of it. So, the university did well in the value category. Talk about, you know, the value category in the region and in the state, and how the university fared. So
we were named the best value in New York State and the #2 overall value in our category. And that's really based on our academic quality, the net cost of attendance for our students and their families. And what's most important is the need-based grant and the scholarship support that we provide. All those factors come in. And, you know, at the end of the day, you know, we'll have 2 open houses this Saturday coming up, right? And so it's really, really important to be able to say to parents and to students that, you know, Niagara University is a great investment and a great return on your investment, and really by external markers and evaluators, really as a best value school. And there's nothing more important than you could say to families who are really choosing between, you know, a dozen schools, and say, you know, where should I make my investment for my child's future?
Yeah, that's an incredible accomplishment. And you touched on this just a little while ago when we talked about Pell-eligible students. And the U.S. News has a ranking called Social Mobility, which doesn't talk about just recruiting the Pell students, but how you get them to persist and graduate. And talk a little bit about how the university answered the mission there.
Yeah, we're really pleased, Tom. You know, if you just think about the life of St. Vincent de Paul, right, and he had a fundamental commitment to excellence in in serving people who are living in poverty. And he really challenged, the people who worked in his ministries in that way. And so we really think we're being very faithful to that. So we have the 4th highest Pell graduation rate in our category. And so that's really what we're incredibly pleased about is to be able to bring students of marginal means to the university, and through, really excellent advisement, personal support, and financial aid, help them to get to the finish line and to flourish and be ready to go forth as graduates.
So that's really answering the mission of educating and also the Vincentian mission of
Yeah.
it. It's a beautiful piece when those two come together. As long as we're on academic affairs, a couple changes. There's the 5th college now at the university.
We're incredibly pleased that the Board of Trustees voted to reinstate the College of Nursing. It's much more than a name change. It really advances the stature and the visibility of our nursing programs and our university. It's the exceptional work that's being carried out by our students and our faculty and our new leader of the college, our dean, Dr. Chris Verney. We're just incredibly excited. She came to us from Deauville. She's got 3 decades of experience in hospital, primary care, hospice, and academic institutions, and we just couldn't be more pleased.
Well, that's great. And I know that, alums thrilled at that, and a lot of people worked on that to get it to that day. It was a great event when we did that. You mentioned Dr. Chris Verney, and speaking of new deans, the College of Hospitality Tourism Management also has a new dean that you appointed to the position this summer.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit
We're
about
incredibly
Bridget.
pleased to have Bridget Nyland join our leadership team as Dean of the College of Hospitality and Tourism. She's an incredibly experienced higher education leader, working in administration as a faculty member. She has a sports law background, and she has an incredibly broad background. And so, it's really, she comes to us most recently as having been the director of the project play Western New York for the Community Foundation of Greater Buffalo. And she's had over 15 years at Damon College. She's really a immensely respected person in Western New York and beyond. And we feel very fortunate to have her as our dean.
Yeah, you can't go anywhere without people saying, "How's Bridget doing? How's
Yeah.
Bridget?" She knows everybody, highly connected. So it's great to have her on the campus. And then the other piece of academics that people I know ask you about, any new programs, what's in the offing that you might see new at the university?
Yeah, Tom, our trustees at the last board meeting approved an MS in Masters in our accounting program, which really allows more students to complete their eligibility to be a licensed CPA. Better prepares students for the CPA exam and for careers in accounting, and now it's on to the state for approval. But it's a great example of the value proposition that a student potentially could get their bachelor's, master's, and their CPA in 4 years. Right. And that's what you have to be able to be ready to do in terms of making the value proposition going forward.
And build those career pathways right
Yeah.
like that. That's great. We talked throughout about Vincentian and service, and I know the university has a hallmark of service, and with the Levesque Institute, and you have new leadership there. And talk a little bit about that, the role there.
Yeah. Dr. Karen Quandras is our new executive director. She was the former assistant vice president of academic affairs and workforce development at Niagara County Community College, a great partner and a wonderful institution that we're blessed to have in the county.
Mm-hmm.
We're really, really pleased to have her. She is just dynamic, incredibly connected, strategic. And she builds on the great work of Patty Roble,
Mm-hmm.
who recently retired as our executive director of the Levesque Institute. So Patty has left a house in very good order for Karen to be able to take forward and bring her own gifts and move the Levesque Institute to a whole different level.
Well, that's great, and she's highly respected in the area too. It's good that somebody, a local person like that, has that. And working inside of Levesque Institute, of course, you have impact and a new director there. Talk a little bit about that person.
Yeah, Miss Rhonda Bivens Talley is our impact director. She's a Niagara Falls native originally,
Mm-hmm.
and deeply rooted, incredible roots in the community, wonderful personal presence, and comes with great experience as a director of grants, after-school programs, assistant director of nursing workforce diversity, and an incredible array of service backgrounds, including youth literacy programs. So we're very blessed to have both of them. They have worked together in the past, they know each other, so they have an incredible chemistry, and it all begins and ends with people. Right. And so we're really, really pleased to have both Karen and Rhonda with us. I think they'll just be an incredible duo.
That's great. And I know during the pandemic, service is different. You can't just send kids out, students out to do work like that. But there are a couple major initiatives, and I'm going to ask you to tell me about Cabrini, but I don't mean the film, which was here and filming over the summer, but the Cabrini Foundation and the university's grant from there.
This is a great example, Tom, of how a particular academic program with faculty expertise and graduate students and undergraduate students can make an incredible difference. So the grant from the Mother Cabrini Health Foundation really has been directed to Niagara to address growing mental health challenges on the campus and in the community. And we all know about that, right? Mm-hmm. In the pandemic, it's been highlighted of the incredible challenges that our families and our communities face around that. So we've been able to work with our faculty, providers in the community, our students, and provide a special focus of delivery of mental health services through telehealth, and really developing telehealth training labs on the campus to provide training to the community and to service providers in the community. So it's a great example of where the academic world can meet the human service world and really do incredible things together.
And that grant was $375,000.
Yes.
Right? Yeah,
yes.
So that's great. Now there's another grant I'm going to talk to you about that didn't go to the university, but you were at a press event with Mark Lurie, the superintendent of Niagara Falls Schools, and Congressman Brian Higgins, and a $10.5 million grant that goes to the school district, but the university's a partner there, right? Talk about the university's role in that.
We are. We will be a contact, partner with Mark and the schools. They'll have 3 sites set up in the city of Niagara Falls. One will be on Main Street, and there'll be great opportunities for our faculty and our students in the early childhood education program, really to be trainers and to be providers, and for paid internships for our graduate students enrolled in the clinical mental health counseling department, as well as some really good action-based and community-based research opportunities. The Federal Reserve had done a study a number of years ago of the incredible impact of early childhood Head Start programs with the continuation of those services, that they change the trajectory of children's lives, because rather than being home and drifting, they're in a program, they're working with professional people and clinical people and warm and caring people, and really getting them on a pathway to reading, to development, to nutrition, and developing the habits of life that really lead to success.
So that's great for the area, and that just, not to give you a compliment, but you're deeply committed to Niagara Falls, and this is just another way university can lend a hand in that area. Yeah.
There's no greater investment we can make than in education, and particularly in early childhood education, of really getting the youngest of our community on a path, and then helping them to stay on the path as they go forward.
That's great. We've talked about a number of new hires you have, but maybe the most significant is Dr. Tamara Minor, who joined the university last month, and talk about her and her role and the vision for that role.
Yeah. So we were really fortunate. We had an incredibly robust and dynamic search for a new president for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Dr. Minor comes to us from the University of Albany. She emerged as really the top candidate. We feel very fortunate to have her come to Niagara. The focus really of the work is really how do we build inclusive excellence throughout the campus for people of color, for people who live with disabilities, and how do we make sure that every voice is heard as we go forward. So she reports directly to me. She sits as a member of the President's Cabinet. She has a vast array of experiences and depth, and she's a visionary leader. She's had extensive education, a lot of success, expertise in promoting diversity in higher education. And I think she was incredibly attracted to our Vincentian and Catholic mission as one of the core constituent elements of why she chose to come to Niagara and why we were so interested in her.
Yeah, and historic as an inaugural vice president
Yep.
at the university, so that's great, and congratulations on that hire. Let's jump into, I know that you get asked about enrollment, and you get asked about athletics. So I know there's a big event coming up in December. Brittany Bisnott from women's soccer, Kathleen Rafter, who really led the initiative to get women's sports officially sanctioned, and you, the 2001-2002 women's ice hockey team, and now with the border opening up, that could become quite the celebration with them coming. They got to the Frozen Four and tied Minnesota in the third place game, and Joe Mahalik, certainly 2 NCAA appearances, 3 NITs, most wins in the MAC, all going into the Athletics Hall of Fame. What does it mean to be able to have people come back to celebrate them, to honor them, in an in-person event, and talk about the robustness of athletics and what that means to the campus community?
Well, they're all, the 4 groups of honorees, right, are all people of incredible impact. Right. And so it's a privilege to be able to honor them for all that they've done for Niagara, each in their own way, and what they've done after Niagara. But it also sends a message to the people who are here now. When you look at the struggles at times and the difficulties and all the things that athletics has to deal with, that these things are all possible. Right. And it just the memories of their experience, but the memories that people have of them as coaches, as student athletes, the incredible impact that they had on the campus. It's just really a wonderful thing to be able to honor those memories and bring them back and celebrate that as we go forward.
And that's all that information is on the Purple Eagles website. If you want to come to the Hall of Fame and the games, and that'd be a great weekend of stuff here. And then talk about the other piece I know that you're deeply committed to is the success of student athletes, not necessarily on the playing field or the rink or the court, but as students. They're student athletes first. And talk a little bit about how well the university does in that arena.
Well, it's interesting. People sometimes talk about athletics as the front porch of a university, and in many respects, our student athletes and coaches, they lead the way. A 3.43 grade point average of the 215 student athletes that were named to the MAC Honor Roll last year, 24 hockey players named to the all-academic team, a graduation success rate of 92%. These are all things that really redound to the credit of Simon Gray as athletic director and the coaches as we go forward. And in truth, a lot of these things have been here. I often say to people, and they're shocked by it, but the last 3 years, our #1 major of our student athletes has been biology.
Right.
And so the coaches are really finding talented student athletes who are really, in a certain sense, I describe them as not just student athletes, they're scholar athletes. And they're incredibly committed to their academic life, to the civic engagement, and to their competition on their field of play or ice. And so, my role as president is really to try to support that, and then to work exceptionally hard with Simon, with our development team, with our trustees, on being able to, create the opportunities in competition that level the playing field. Right. For fundraising, we'll be hiring somebody as a fundraising director for athletics as we go forward. We're going to be announcing some significant opportunities that are going to be arising in terms of athletics for, that's going to be directed towards supporting our student athletes in their training and their field of play. The Kiernan renovation of $11.4 million is going to be a significant development for all of our non-basketball, non-hockey student athletes, and we'll be doing some more things as we go forward, but it's really supporting their athletic competition, their academic excellence, their personal development, and their community engagement. Because receiving that scholarship and that support, there's also an obligation to give something back for what you've received. So it's a wonderful community. And right now, we have 357 student athletes with us this fall term, and a really dynamic leader in Simon Gray, who has just really steadily chopped wood and lifted and moved us forward. So, I think we're on the precipice of being able to do something, really significant.
Oh, that's great. And it's, to use, we don't have a football team, but it's the blocking and tackling, right? It's the chopping wood, it's the basic stuff. And 215 students on the honor roll, that's a record, but on the field of play, they won the Battle of the Bridge against our rivals down on Main Street in Buffalo, and have been competitive too, which also is great. So great to see. Let's talk a little bit about advancement and fundraising. President's Dinner usually comes up in another week or two, but not necessarily a week or two from now, but we are doing it this year, right?
We're very fortunate. December 10th, Tom, this year, just a little later. But two of our trustees, Kathleen Neville and Karen Howard, are our co-chairs, and we have a group of trustees as well as management working around that. We have a wonderful set of honorees. Judith Quigley-Roos, a '69 graduate, will receive the St. Louis de Marillac Medal. Elizabeth Triggs, a wonderful fixture, a servant of the poor of Buffalo, will receive the St. Vincent de Paul Award. And Robert Joya, our own of Buffalo, will receive the Legacy of Service Award from the Oshai Foundation. They have done incredible work in the community, and so we're really blessed and honored to be able to have them as our honorees this year.
And that dinner benefits students, right? I mean, it's a direct benefit to students.
Pure scholarship support for our students, and the money goes right out to the students. In this, it will go right out in the next term, and it will go right out for the students arriving at Niagara University for the fall of '22. So
I'll put you on the spot. What's the goal for the dinner?
The goal is we've been able to get over 200,000 of a net each year, 224 last year. We're pushing higher this year.
Right.
So, but all the money that comes in goes right to the students and their families.
That's great. I look forward to that event. And if people want to sponsor, they just get in contact with the Advancement Office if they want tickets or sponsorship for that. We did have a few. I know the Advancement Office and Alumni Relations asked for some questions. Ed Riedlinger from the class of '71 had a couple he sent in. There's been rumors about a capital campaign, and if so, did COVID impact that or not? But it's not really rumors, is it, Father?
Right. So we're 800 at this particular point. We've been in the quiet phase of a campaign, so just over 85 million. Has been committed to the campaign. And despite the enormous challenges of last year, we've been able to bring in about just over 32 million increase since the beginning of fiscal year 21. So a lot of Zoom calls, a lot of creative, fundraising by the credit to the team and our interim Vice President, Jacqueline Rossi. And so we're very fortunate to be in the position that we are going forward. And the nice thing about it, Tom, is it really is aligned with our strategic plan, our campus master plan, our scholarship support as we go forward. And it's an incredibly worthwhile cause to give to.
Right. 32 million during the pandemic was raised. That's crazy. And then the other question that we had was about just the endowment. And how is the endowment doing? The market's been pretty good, so I imagine it's up a little bit.
Yeah, we've had a board committee, investment committee, really working closely with consultants on it. So we've grown the endowment by year's end to $115 million. So we continue to work on that and apply the best of practices that we can as we go forward, because that's going to be critical for us.
Yeah, that is great. Father, I don't know where the time flies when we do this. It seems like we run through it. It's great to do it. I thoroughly enjoy it. Thanks to everybody who's with us today, and thanks to Father for taking some time with us. It is the state of the university, and it is great to have Father Maher here to offer that up. We'll see you at the President's Dinner on December 10th, and everybody enjoy yourself. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom.